Alright. Today, we're going to talk about meat birds. But first, we're going to build a fire. Went to the feed store today, picked up 72 Cornish Crosses. 72, guys. All right. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna be raising 72 Cornish Crosses over the next 56 days. They're gonna be organically fed with Green Mountain Organics, and then we're gonna take them to the processor, where they're gonna be processed humanely, packaged, and put in the freezer. What's up, guys? Ready for the night? So, what we're going to talk about is how you can take commercial practices and apply them at your house to make the job way easier to raise chickens. Now, I know that sounds expensive, but in the long run, if you can count how much your time's worth to you, how much you're going to invest in repurchasing items at the store, in the end it's going to save you a lot of time, a lot of money, and you're going to want to keep doing it. So some of the biggest mistakes people make when they're raising meat birds is not being prepared for them. They go get the birds, and then they come home and they get those little dinky water systems, they get the little dinky food trough from the feed store, and they're like, hey, I can do this. Next thing they know, they're upgrading to the bigger water dish, or upgrading to the bigger feeder, and it's a constant battle. So before we go down and put the new chicks into the brooder, I'm going to just tell you what I'm going to be doing down there. The first thing I'm going to do is, as I take these chicks out of their shipping container, is I'm going to dip their beaks into their water supply. And I'm doing that for a couple reasons. A, they've been on a long 24-hour journey. They came from the hatchery to the feed store, and then from the feed store to my house. So it's a lot of stress on the little chick. So what I do is I dip their beak into the water, gives them a little taste of the water, then they're familiar with where their water is. And as I'm doing that, I'm also counting them. You'll notice that there's a lot of chickens. If you don't count them as you put them in, it's next to impossible to count them as they're running around their brooder. So when you get your chicks, count them as you put them in. Hey, so the first thing we're going to talk about today is preparing for meat birds. So the first couple things I did was think about how many birds I was going to be raising, and then how I could efficiently, sustainably, and effectively raise these birds. So a lot of the time you'll talk to people about raising meat birds, and they'll talk about how much time it takes to raise them. So I wanted to think about how I could take that time, minimize the amount of time I had to do each day by maximizing my prep time, and by also taking industry standards from the commercial industries, but applying it at a residential and small scale operation. So what I first did was I started investing time in researching water systems. One of the biggest concerns with raising meat birds is to make sure that they have consistent water that is clean and that is going to be available to them 24/7. So a lot of people will start with the little tiny water systems that you can buy at Tractor Supply or your local feed store, and what I found over the course of trial and error is that they're just not sufficient enough. It causes way too many headaches. You're going to go out there changing that water multiple times a day, and it's just a big time commitment. So this year what I did is I visited some area farms that I knew were efficient in the way they raised meat birds, and I took some of those practices, downsized it to what I needed, and then applied it at my homestead. So the first thing I want to talk about is the water system that I purchased. I have the Plassen broiler water. So what you can see here is I have the water system, which is tied into the tubing. That tubing is fed through the side and up to this bucket. Now what I was able to do is just tap into my outdoor spigot, tapped into that water supply here with a regular bathroom fixture, where I'm able to fill this 5-gallon bucket up when it gets low, and that is gravity fed down into this system right here. Now this system has worked really well for me over the past month and a half. There are a couple things you need to watch out with it. Now you see right here with the chicks, I had to lower it down. So as you lower it, you need to be careful with the water reservoir that's actually underneath of this that counterweights it. That if that is resting on the ground, that you're taking weight off of the water tray, which is the red part. If you take weight off of that, you'll find that it consistently will drain water. Now, drains water, where's that water going to go? It's going to overflow into your brooder. Not a good thing. So, one thing you want to be careful of is that nothing is going to take the weight off of that water tray, so that those water feeders, the little gray spigots at the top, don't run all the time. The second thing that I figured out through trial and error is if the tubes are taking weight off of the water tray as well. So if those tubes aren't connected to the little gray clip, and they are taking weight up in these hooks here, you'll find that they will leak and overflow into your brooder as well. So those are a couple things. If you decide to use these, which I highly recommend you do, those are a couple things you need to watch out for. As far as how many times I have to play with the water system, it's very minimal. I come down here probably every couple days, make sure that the water level is high enough, and then that 5 gallons will probably last these guys 2 to 3 days. As they get older, I'll make sure that I'm consistently checking that water level, but 5 gallons should suit them well. And the other thing is sorry, kids are upstairs. Alright, the next thing I want to talk about is their food. I am raising the Cornish Crosses on Green Mountain Organics, and I did some research on different brands of organic feed that is available to me, where I can get it, how much time it's going to take for me to purchase that feed. So what I ended up doing is I went with Green Mountain for a couple reasons. A, they're a New England based company. I'd like to try to keep my operation as close to home as I can. The second is the amount that you can get in a single bag. So with Green Mountain, I was able to get 50 pounds per bag, where other competing brands was anywhere in the 35 pounds to 40 pound range. And that may not seem like a lot, but when you calculate how much feed you're going to need on a daily basis, and then you spread that over an 8-week course, it can add up to how many bags you're going to have to be purchasing. We have the little chick feed troughs that you can get at the store. They work great. I found that I am filling them up way too much. So I made these troughs. I had some 4-inch lightweight PVC, just cut them in half, had some scrap wood laying around, made these troughs. As you can tell, the chicks get in them. These guys are day olds, so they're going to soil in that. But I'm not too concerned with that. Over the next couple days, they're going to get big enough that they're not going to be able to fit in there. So I'll just make sure that it's clean, come down, make sure that it's cleaned out every time I come down, and then I'll just consistently make sure that's full. Now, with meat birds, you'll find that they will eat as long as they have food. So for the first week, we keep that full. We keep it full for 24 hours. After the first week, we are going to take it down to 12 hours a day. So for 12 hours, they're going to have no food available to them. And the reason we do that is if they eat too fast and put on too much weight, which they will, they're bred for that, they will have internal problems. So it sounds mean to take feed away from a week-old chick, but in the long run, they're going to be a lot healthier. Internally, they're going to develop normally, and over time, it's going to be better for the chicks. So there you have it.